KTBC Television News now presents a special program on today's mass murder in the capital city. Here is KTBC Television News Editor Neil Spells.
Good evening. One of history's worst mass murders occurred here in Austin today. By official count tonight, 49 persons were hit by gunfire. There are 16 dead and 33 injured.
The man described in this news report is a Charles J. Whitman. And Charles J. Whitman is considered to be America's first school mass murderer. To understand perhaps why Charles did what he did, you must take a look into his very dark and almost twisted past. Charles was born into a very wealthy family. However, this wealth came at a price. Charles' father was a very demanding man, and if his demands were not met, he was not opposed to using his fist or his belt to see them through. This all culminated in an event when Charles came home from a party drunk and his father threw him into the pool. Charles almost drowned because of this incident, and because of this, Charles decided he would leave his home to go to the military.
There must have been a hit that last time. We hear people outside of our building in an area where we can't now look safely saying, "Let's help that boy. Does he need help? Someone must be down."
Whitman joined the Marines in 1959. Whitman earned many medals while in the Marines, one of which stands out among the rest, the Sharpshooter's Badge. Whitman joined a program that allowed him to become an officer. This program allowed Whitman to enroll at the University of Texas at Austin, which would later become the site of his rampage. While at college, Whitman discovered he now had responsibility over himself. He did not know how to handle this newfound responsibility, and therefore he began to fail his classes and become a very unruly and rowdy student. He was eventually expelled from the school, and after a few years, he was honorably discharged from the Marines.
Ambulances screaming all over the city, and more sounds, more shots being fired up the tower, from the tower, on the mall, with empty carton of shells.
While in the Marines, Whitman also got married. Whitman unfortunately used his father as a model for his marriage, and so his marriage was completely controlled by his temper and his demands. Discovering how unhappy his wife was about the marriage, Whitman decided he wanted to change himself for the better. Unfortunately, any change Whitman tried to make to himself only ended in him sinking deeper and deeper into his pit of despair and self-hatred.
Repeating, a sniper with a high-powered rifle has taken up a position on the observation deck.
On August 1st, 1966, Charles Whitman decided he would do the unthinkable. Charles went to visit his mother at her apartment. After she let him inside the apartment, he went up behind her with a cord and strangled her to death. Charles left his mother's apartment and went to his wife's house. As she slept in her bed, he pulled back the bedding and stabbed her in the chest 5 times. This killed her instantly. Charles then went to the tower located at the University of Texas at Austin. From there, he had a good vantage point of the entire campus, and this allowed him to utilize his sniper rifle. Charles didn't just have a sniper rifle, he had all the weapons shown in this image, and he carried all of these weapons up the tower, prepared to have a massive standoff.
Sirens screamed for the 90 minutes that the gun battle was in progress. It was hot, past 90 degrees on the ground, probably much hotter, high atop the tower with the sun ricocheting off the limestone with the same intensity as the police bullets. Students, co-eds, crouched at the place where they could find safety. Austin police were reinforced in their gun battle by sheriff's deputies, by Texas highway patrolmen, by Texas Rangers, and some citizens who were deputized when they offered their services. But from the time the first call came in to the UT police at 11:48 a.m. until Austin police gunned down the man they said was the sniper at 1:22 p.m., the university campus resembled a battlefield.
America was shocked by this display of domestic terrorism. The governor of Texas wanted Whitman to be autopsied. During the autopsy, they found something shocking. There was a tumor the size of a pecan on his brain. This tumor was located on the part of the brain known to control behaviors. Although it couldn't be proven that this tumor caused Whitman to do what he did, it's heavily speculated that it was in fact the reason. Not everyone can agree on what caused Charles Whitman to kill those people, but they can agree on one thing. Charles Whitman will always be remembered as the infamous Texas Tower Sniper.
Boston, 1964, a city stricken with panic. 13 women dead, aging from the youngest of 19 to the oldest of 75, all killed by one man, Albert DeSalvo. What makes these particular murders stand out in many cases of serial killing is the fact that many of the victims were mature or elderly. The combination of old age, loneliness, and vulnerability all add to the brutality and tragedy of the events. DeSalvo confessed to these murders, but close friends and relatives still did not believe these claims. 23-year-old Patricia Bissett was pregnant when she was found dead in her apartment near the vicinity where Anna Sleezers and Sophia Clark had lived. Bissett was discovered by her boss when she didn't turn up for work. Her body lay covered in the bed by sheets, and she had been sexually assaulted and strangled with her own stocking, just like the other victims. She made the 8th victim in the case.
Hospital, where he has spent the last 26 months. He was not tried for the 13 killings ascribed to the Boston Strangler. Authorities lack evidence, they say, to try anyone for those crimes. And so the verdict leaves unanswered questions that DeSalvo's lawyer, F. Lee Bailey, had hoped to clear up by pleading his client not guilty by reason of insanity. Bailey expressed his displeasure over the verdict.
Without sour grapes, I say Massachusetts just burned another witch, because we haven't gone anywhere. Finding Albert DeSalvo guilty doesn't accomplish anything. Putting him in Walpole wouldn't accomplish anything.
Did you get a chance to talk with him?
With who?
DeSalvo, after the verdict.
Yeah?
What did he say?
I think he rather expected it.
Francis Lee Bailey, who will later represent other famous cases such as O.J. Simpson and Patty Hearst, took the responsibility of being DeSalvo's lawyer.
DeSalvo had a tough upbringing. He was brought up with 4 siblings, and his father was a wife-beating alcoholic. The boy became a delinquent and spent time in and out of prison for petty crime and violence. Years after he had been discharged from the army for disobeying orders, he settled down and married a sweetheart, Irmgard Beck, a girl from Germany. They lived modestly, and despite Irmgard giving birth to a handicapped child, the family managed to sustain itself. Irmgard was aware that DeSalvo was highly sexed and tried to avoid intercourse for fear of having another handicapped baby. However, a healthy boy was born, and DeSalvo appeared to become a disciplined family man, liked and appreciated by colleagues and his boss. He was also known to be an outrageous braggart, which perhaps led the police to later disbelieve his claims to be the Strangler. DeSalvo was incarcerated in what is now known as MCIA Cedar Junction Prison in Massachusetts. In November 1973, he got word to his doctor that he needed to see him urgently. DeSalvo had something important to say about the Boston Strangler murders, but that night before they were to meet, however, DeSalvo was stabbed to death in prison. Because of the level of security in the prison, it is assumed that the killing had been planned with a degree of cooperation between employees and prisoners. Whatever the case, and though there were no more murders by the Strangler after DeSalvo had been arrested, the Strangler case was never closed.